notion of growth. So I know that I am, and the board and Patrice are thrilled, and we are enlivened with new possibilities. And they bring a wealth of expertise to us. They are meta-spiritual teachers, mentors, consultants, publishers, writers, radio hosts, and podcast creators, and awesome people. My first experience with Cher and Bill was actually when I was taking courses to become a licensed Unity teacher, and I heard them co-hosting with Rev Paul Hasselbeck, Metaphysical Romp and Metaphysical Romp 2, and I understand now it's a podcast. And then, I guess my first year of FLP training, they led a session on ministry leadership. And so I was intrigued, and so was just honored to bring you here. After 9 years of ministry in North Carolina, heading their own Unity churches, they decided that they wanted to go global. And so they combined many of their passions together, their love of science, their love of spirituality, and how they can target a bigger audience and bringing their consultant work. So now they work with Unity communities across the globe, ways to bring growth and excitement into ministry. And they are authors and publishers, and you can see as you came in, there are a myriad of books, how to practically embody and utilize our 12 powers, about spiritual practices, and a lot of Bill's sayings, how he very succinctly brings spiritual insight to the euphemisms that we just sometimes say in passing. So we are going to have a spiritual cafe, which is going to be, I'm sure, fun and lively as well. So I invite you to stay for that, and to also meet and greet with them, buy their books. So we welcome you.
Before I begin, I just want to make a brief caboose on to what Reverend Angela announced this morning. Cher and I go around to a lot of Unity churches, New Thought churches. And yeah, New Thought really isn't New Thought at all, is it? It's old thought, kind of repeated, when you think about that. So we are at a spiritual center here at Unity by Shore. That's one of the Unity centers that really is on the cutting edge of thought. Your minister is a cutting edge Unity minister.
Yeah.
Sarah and I aren't able to say that, so we don't even say it at a lot of Unity churches because God love them, they don't have cutting edge ministers. And you have an extraordinary board here as well. And we don't generally say that either. We compliment the churches because we want to be good guests. But there's some things that you really can't say because they're just simply not true. And so just know that we don't say what I just said everywhere. Just know that. There are about 2% of Unity churches that get it.
Wow.
And by it, you'll know what we mean by it in just a little bit. I'd like to start out of respect for your minister and your board. I'm changing the first part of my part of the talk. By the way, I'm going first because I won the rock, paper, scissors. and so you're hearing from me first. You'll be hearing from my better half, the love of my life, in just a little bit.
Better message.
Yes. Here is our central teaching. The board heard it Saturday, but here is our central teaching. Everything else falls under this central teaching. Angela mentioned about meta-spiritual. What that means is it's a term we invented, and it's beyond spiritual, meta, beyond spiritual. But what that means is Cher and I have married science and spirituality. So that all of our spiritual teachings are evidence-based. And part of that evidence is the song that we just sang, faith. Faith is simply inner knowing, inner surety, inner absolute knowing. And that's what true faith is. You've heard the expression, fake it till you make it. That's a New Thought expression. Sarah and I say, faith it till you make it is a better way of going. So we're going to faith it till we make it right here this morning. And our central teaching is this. Your spiritual growth and your human happiness aren't so much limited by unanswered questions as they are unquestioned answers. Spiritual growth and human happiness aren't so much limited by unanswered questions as they are unquestioned answers. And one of the unquestioned answers that we'll approach this morning is an unquestioned answer that says most people believe that they're just human. Now, people who say, well, I'm just human or I'm only human are following what Sarah and I call an unquestioned answer that needs to be questioned. Because we're all much more than that. We're a lot more than just human. There are parts of us that are 13.8 billion years old, when you think about it. And there are parts of us that are nanosecond, that come into existence and back out of existence. There are parts of us that are infinite. There are parts of us that are finite. There are parts of us that are flesh and blood. And there are very much parts of us that are spiritual. And because there's so much spiritual in us, the truth of not being just human, you're more than just human because you're a spiritual being who has chosen another human experience. And that's the difference. And I noticed that in some of your phraseology this morning, the Spirit as us, God as us, we think is so appropriate. We applaud you for being at that level of consciousness. You guys are where unity needs to move as a movement. Taking the next step in terms of our current teachings and lifting those teachings to a higher octave. Unity is a bridge. We talk about that as you help people from traditional way of thinking across the bridge to enlightened thought. And that's the position you guys are in. It's a great position to be in, and thank you for that. Not only are you infinite, you're a combination of both being infinite, your body is finite. Your consciousness, your true self is infinite. And we talked about the true self earlier. Now what's interesting is science is beginning to move toward the true self idea. For example, in neuroscience, they refer to your true self, if you will, as your deeper self. It's in their writings, it's in their journals. They don't use the word spiritual, but they say deeper self, so neuroscientists are aware there's more to you than biochemistry. Psychologists call that deeper self the authentic you, or your core self. And of course, spiritual leaders refer to it as your higher spiritual self, your monad, your atma, your jiva, and dozens of other names to describe your spiritual side. And so the world is beginning to get it, to catch on to who we really are, spiritual beings inhabiting a human form. Now, Sarah and I have a little bit different idea about the God concept. And that's how we explain it. The God meme, the God concept that we all grown up with. And most people believe that this God meme is an anthropomorphic God in the sky, white robed, white bearded, who micromanages the universe, who rewards the faithful and punishes the unbelievers. That God meme has been around an awful long time. And luckily, hopefully, methodically, divinely ordering it, humankind will get a better interpretation, a better understanding of this God concept. The God of shares of my understanding, we have called the omnipresent universal reality. It's a force, it's an energy that is the ground of all being and non-being. And that is who we refer to, what we refer to is our true nature, because all of us, look around at the people in this room, take a quick look. Everyone you see is the omnipresent universal reality showing up as them. You are that reality as you. In this skin school experience, the garment that you put on here, your physical body, is a garment. That's all it is. The real you is within. Is within. On the temple, on the forecourt of the temple at Adelphi, it's inscribed, "Know thyself." You probably know that. Well, Cher and I have changed it. We've modified it, as we do a lot of things. And we've changed that to just 2 words. Instead of know thyself, I'm sorry, 3 words. Know yourself with a capital S. And the capital S self is your divine nature. When you know that self, when you know your capital S self, you will realize who and what you really are. You will realize you are connected with that deeper self, with that monad, with that jiva, with your higher spiritual nature. And that's important because as we look at what we're going to talk about today, it leads us into the title of our talk this morning. What follows I am follows you. Because depending upon what you say, what part of your statement follows I am to the right of that is what you're calling yourself, is how you're seeing yourself, is your understanding of who you are. And so many times people, we feel, need to improve their phraseology in terms of what follows I am. Because what follows I am, when you really think about it, is the acoustics of an echo. And Cher and I call it echo, E-C-H-O, economics. It sounds like an echo. When you say something in a canyon, you get the sound echoed back to you, right? Well, whatever we think we are and whatever we say we are echoes back to us. It's either self-imposed joy or self-imposed sadness, when you think about it, depending upon what you call yourself, how you refer to yourself. Becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you think about it, your sound reverberates back to you in terms of what you call yourself. And so we invite you to pay more attention to how you refer to yourself. Now, there's a story in the Old Testament. Cher and I are fans of the New Testament. And when I say that, I want to modify that by saying we are fans of a metaphysical interpretation of the New Testament, not the literal interpretation of the New Testament. We never had a problem with the Bible as we were growing up. I was Southern Baptist background. Cher has a Methodist background. Her dad was a Methodist minister for 40 years. And so we have no issue with picking up the Bible. So I went back here and Rebecca read a verse from that Bible. And I've got one here with me today. But Cher and I are much more fans of the esoteric translation of the New Testament. And occasionally we dip into the Old Testament, as I'm going to do in just a few minutes. But I want to say that to kind of set the stage, I'm going to take us back to Exodus chapter 3. And in that chapter, it talks about Moses, or was that Charlton Heston? That goes to Egypt to inform the Pharaoh that by God's command, he's supposed to reduce his workforce, essentially, his entire workforce. And what's interesting is most people don't think about this, but Moses was born and raised in Egypt. And he was one of the elite, appointed. He was pulled from the righteous by the Pharaoh's daughter. And so here he is years later, after fleeing Egypt, here he is years later being invited by this Judeo-Christian God to go back to Egypt and demand that the Pharaoh let his people go. So the Pharaoh knew Moses. And Moses was a little concerned about going back in there because there was a warrant out for his arrest. And here he is going back. So he wanted to make sure that he had the authority that the Pharaoh would see as an authority for him coming back. So that's what the whole issue was. So in the meantime, Moses is on Mount Horeb, miles from where he had to go in Egypt. And he comes across the burning bush. Now, I don't know about you, I've never seen a burning bush. It's interesting, I think, when you look at the story metaphysically, that this really is a metaphor for our journey, and I'll tell you why. Moses stands for that within us that desires to move beyond the limitations of our skin school experience. Pharaoh stands for our unenlightened materialistic ego. Mount Horeb stands for a high state of consciousness. And the burning bush, fasten your seatbelts. The burning bush represents, in our opinion, Cher and I called our BS. Now BS stands for belief system. So according to our belief system, the burning bush stands for a fully blossoming crown chakra moment. That's what that's all about. So when we put aside our materialistic ego and make it subservient to our divine nature, which is the Moses within us, if you put away all that negativity and go to a higher state of consciousness, go to the upper rung, go to our super consciousness, that's what that's all about. We'll have a crown chakra moment. That's the spiritual journey there. Our spiritual journey. Everyone's spiritual journey. So at any rate, though, the topic for today is what follows I am follows you. So how this relates is that Moses was to tell Pharaoh who sent him. That would be the question, and that would be his answer. So let's see if I can find this here. Oh, here it is. Okay.
That old.
I'm just messing with you. But here's verse 3 and 14. Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me. And they ask me, what is his name? God said to Moses, this is the Judeo-Christian account now, said to Moses, I am who I am, sent you. I am who I am, a powerful affirmation. I am who I am. Now, its Greek equivalent is I am the human expression of the solar logos. Now, logos preceded Christos, or the Christ nature. Logos, the metaphysical meaning of logos, and one of the etymologies of logos means vibration, cosmic vibration. So it wasn't the spoken word at all. It's the cosmic vibration within us. We had mentioned go into the silence. The truth is, according to Bil Cher, when you go to that place inside, it's called the silence because you drown out, you stop all the outside chatter of your physical senses and go inside. But folks, when you go inside to that place, to that divine singularity within you, there is a hum that you hear, a warming that you hear in your heart center. There is a sound, but it's the sound of your spiritual nature, your divine nature. It's not really silence as we define silence. Silence refers to the outside, the outer us, our outer senses. Now, the reason the right of I am, the right side of the I am statement is so important is that in the internet there's a term they use and it's called a filter bubble. Have you ever heard of that? What that means is that due to your search history and the things that you browse on the internet and the things that you select on the internet, the history of your browsing is recorded by an algorithm. And so the engine itself gives you back what it knows that you want to hear, what you browse for often. Have you ever bought a book or a product? Next time then you're on the page, it's got some other products that they think that you will like. Well, that's what that algorithm's doing for you. It's giving you back what it knows that you want. Well, our subconscious is the same way. Our subconscious is our filter bubble. Our subconscious is filled with our old patterns in this life and in past lives that it knows that we want. It's a history, it's an archive of our past consciousness, our past choices. And it wants to make sure, out of self-preservation and self-control, that we get what we prefer. Now, if you fill your consciousness up with I am statements that are not your true nature, when you say such things as, I am so confused, I am so awful, I am such a klutz, I am not going to amount to anything, you're programming that into your subconsciousness. And your subconsciousness will bring you experiences in every life so that you can experience what you have just claimed you are. That's on the other side of any I am statement. And so you don't want to fill your consciousness up with those kinds of statements. And when you think about it in a very real sense, when you make a claim like that that's so negative and that is not the truth of who you are, when you do that, it's really an old religious term, blasphemy, because you're blaspheming against your true nature. When you think about it, you're claiming that you're not this particular item, this particular thought, and so we invite you not to claim something that you're not. Don't do that. The person that is following me, I'd probably follow her anywhere, and it's the love of my life, Cher.
Wow. I am who I am. I am that I am is another version, another translation. If we realize the power of those words, our spiritual practice and our life would never be the same. And have you had experiences where your life has never been the same? When I met this man, my life has never been the same. I was very comfortable in my little belief system of where I lived until I met Bill. And he helped me question unquestioned answers. So that's why we share that idea with you, because I'd follow him anywhere too. And saying what we say, and believing what we believe, and being willing to allow it to grow, that's the truth of who we are. That's how we can reach it. So let's take a look. That phrase, I am that I am. We want to play with it a little and put a piece of a comma in there. So we're going to change it just a little and make a comma. We're going to say, I am that, comma, I am. You see how that changes it? Because now we get to define what we fill in for the word that. I am blank. I am. And what we'll find is when we fill it in incorrectly, we're going to experience the results. Because I got to tell you something. Affirmations done correctly will work no matter what it is you're affirming. So if you're affirming negative self-defeating ideas, it's going to work. Just the same as if you do high spiritual thoughts, because the affirmation doesn't know the difference. Your subconscious, your consciousness doesn't know. So let's play with it. Are you all ready to play a little? Yeah. Play with me a little? Okay. So just everybody, no matter how you really feel, just for a moment, say out loud, I am tired.
I am tired.
Okay, did you hear that?
Yeah.
And whether you are or not, do you now not feel a little tired? And did you feel, those of you who are sensitive to feeling probably felt a little drop in the energy in the room. Just like that. It was sucked out of the room just by making that statement. So we want to fix it. So I want everybody to repeat these after me with energy, all the energy you possibly can. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I am energized.
I am energized.
Love it. I am prosperous.
I am prosperous.
I am joyful.
I am joyful.
I am amazing.
I am amazing.
I am healthy.
I am healthy.
I am divine.
I am divine.
I am extraordinary.
I am extraordinary.
Yes.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Oh, I like you followed by. All right, do you notice the difference in the room energy?
Yes.
How about yourself?
Yes.
Can you feel the difference?
Yes.
Because what you did was just affirm truth. And when you do that, you literally raise your soul vibration to a higher spiritual octave. You raised your soul vibration to a higher spiritual octave. And you can feel the difference. It's incredible. And this actually brings us to 2 pieces of a code that will make your affirmations powerful. 2 pieces, real quickly. First piece is you got to say it like you mean it. You know what I mean? You can't just say, I am so joyful. No wonder I don't feel good, right? Or we can't just negate it like, I am so joyful. Yeah, right. We got to say it like we mean it. Put the energy in like you just did. I really believe what you said back to me. And your body, your consciousness, your beingness believed it too. So part of the code is we got to say it like we mean it. Second part of the code, we want to be sure we are affirming truth. There's an interesting quote from one of our favorite authors, Eric Butterworth. Y'all familiar with Eric? Great author. One of his, now you're going to wonder about the first part of his quote. It almost sounds blasphemous. The first part of his quote says, things do not become true because we affirm them. Don't you just want to go, what? Things do not become true because we affirm them. We affirm things because they are true. We affirm things because they are truth. And those, when we do that, that's when we're grounded in affirmations that work. Make sense? Yes. Okay, so that's the piece we want you to take away. Now, Bill and I are firm believers in doing a couple of things when we come visit at a church in a beautiful community like this. We like to make you think. We want to give you something you may not have thought about in the same way. And hopefully we've done that. The second thing we like to do is make it practical. So you have something to take away that you could go back and actually use what we've talked about and put it into practice. So we have 2 spiritual adventures for you to take away today. The first one is called Affirmation Sandwiches. Think about what our title is. I am that I am. That's kind of like a sandwich, right? The bread is the I am and the I am, and you get to put the filling in. So we want you to be creating I am sandwiches this week. And sometimes we need help, because when you're feeling like you most need this is when you least feel like doing it. You ever notice that? And so this technique can help you. You use the alphabet. When you're feeling yourself a little bit down, a little bit depressed, a little bit harried and going crazy, a little bit out of sync, just take a breath and think about the alphabet. And for every letter, come up with positive, uplifting words and make it into an affirmation sandwich. For example, A. Give me a good A word.
Amazing.
Amazing, I heard. I am amazing, I am. Say it.
I am amazing, I am.
Give me a good B word.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful and brilliant. I am beautiful and brilliant. It's like peanut butter and jelly. I'm going to put them both on. I am beautiful and brilliant. I am. Say it. I am beautiful and brilliant. I am. Let's do the letter H. Happy. I am happy. I am. You see what it does? I mean, you don't even have to give it much thought. All you got to do is come up with words. And where this is really helpful, we've done it. We did it on our way here, by the way, is when you run into traffic. Not here today, but here, like on 95 getting here. When you run into traffic and you're sitting and you're getting frustrated and it's irritating and you're starting to... Look at the license plates around you.
What are you going to do?
Take the letters off the license plate, turn them into powerful words, and turn those words into affirmation sandwiches. Now, we're not yet at the point where doing that actually makes the traffic disappear. We're working on it. We haven't been able to divinely order that yet, but I got to tell you, it makes you better. You're in a better place. Not only then, but when you get where you're going. So affirmation sandwiches is your first adventure. Second adventure is a challenge. We invite you to take what we call the Fillmore Challenge. You're all familiar with the Fillmores, right? Our few wonderful founders of the Unity Movement. Myrtle Fillmore has an incredible quote. She said, now I want you to listen to this. Never make an assertion, no matter how true it may appear on the surface, that you do not want manifest in your life. Okay, yeah, isn't that amazing? Never make an assertion. In other words, never say anything, no matter how true it may look on the surface, that you don't want to see manifest in your life. That means you don't look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm having a bad hair day. Because who wants to manifest a bad hair day, right? Or you don't say, I don't have enough money. Because who wants to manifest that? We want to manifest, I am abundant. I attract. I'm in a field of infinite potential, and I manifest all that is mine to do and be and have, right? So here's your challenge for a week. Only 7 days. How hard can that be? For a week, see if you can do that. See if you can never make an assertion during the next 7 days, never say anything that you do not want to see manifest in your life, no matter how true it may look on the outer surface. We call it the world of outer appearance, right? Now, if you mess up, because that's probably going to happen in 7 days. It's no guilt. This is not a guilt kind of activity. Just kind of laugh at yourself and say, oops, okay, let me rephrase. And take a moment to breathe and acknowledge where you are. Because I think it's ridiculous to ignore it. I mean, if we're feeling something really stressful or awful or bad or sad, we're not saying ignore it. Facts don't cease to exist because they're ignored. We talked about that yesterday. Go ahead and say, I'm feeling this. That's okay. I'm okay. I forgive that. I let that go. And now I'm going to affirm what I see, what I really see with the truth of me, and turn it into an affirmation sandwich. Make sense? Yes. So those are your 2 things that you're going to be doing for the week. And we've given you to help you remember, back at our table right outside the door, which we hope you come back and talk to us, we have a handout for you. And it's got the 2 activities on it, so you can take this and put it up somewhere where you'll see it. We also have a basket with affirmations, which are going to be
In the affirmation bowl.
in the affirmation bowl. So today, when you do your prosperity walk, and is that what it's called? Prosperity walk of abundance. Sorry, walk, same thing, right? Accepting it. When you do this walk, the affirmation you're going to be drawing are affirmations Bill and I sat down and brainstormed for you. And they're all written as affirmation sandwiches. And I just drew one. I don't even know what it says yet, but this is the type of thing that's on it. I am grateful, I am. That's the sandwich. I give thanks for both expected and unexpected good flowing to me, and find ways to share my good with others to keep this flow of giving and receiving open. It feels good. So everybody will be getting one. They're all different. You can just, I believe they're all different, and you can just reach in there and grab one, and that's your sandwich. And you know what? You attract to you the one that's going to resonate the most with you. So when you read it, you might say, oh, why did I get that? Sit with that for a while, and you'll know. We just love you so much, and we affirm the truth of who you are. And we hope that with these little helpers and reminders and your own knowing, you will leave here and spend this next week continuing to affirm, I am amazing. I am incredible. I am extraordinary. I am divine, because you are amazing. You are extraordinary. You are divine. You are worthy. And you can master the art of living as you walk the spiritual path on practical feet. Abundant blessings.